Well, it's Thanksgiving week. Happy Thanksgiving. This week, there's nothing but good news. And that's what I'm thankful for. I've got nothing but good news to share with you today. So let's dive into some of that. The first good news is this, and maybe this is interesting news, but I'm going to start with this. I heard a stat this morning about uh, how often people work with the first realtor that they talk to. So if you're the first real estate agent that talks to a client, on average, you can be guaranteed that 2/3 of the time, like 66, 67% of the time, you will be the agent that they end up working with. So, how important is it to have that first conversation, that first connection, right? Connecting either through social media or face to face or on the phone or text, whatever. But that first connection with a potential home buyer yields 67% of the time that they will become your client. So keep that in mind as you're out there talking to people, etc. It's and the same thing generally holds true on the lending side too. I've noticed the same thing. Most of the time, right? If I'm the first person to talk to a client, they typically work with me unless I say something really stupid, which I try not to, right? I try to be a nice guy and of course answer their questions and give them information that's helpful. But most of the time, that's the way it works out. So we all have to be aware of that fact and ready to visit with people, ready to put our best foot forward all the time, almost. When we're ready, when we're out in public, when we're online, etc. It's important to be professional, to be ready, and to answer the questions that people have, and to make that connection with them. So, I thought that was an interesting stat to think about. Now, a lot of you are worried about the fact that, oh man, where are the buyers going to come from? Nobody can afford anything. Well, rest assured, there is pent up demand and it keeps growing, right? Demand keeps growing and keeps getting pent up. So at some point, something will break. Now, I keep telling people if they're going to be in the home at least 5 years, they're financially prepared, they've got a down payment of at least 3.5% to 5%, and they have stable employment, etc. It is best for them to buy now rather than waiting for interest rates to drop or waiting for home prices to drop, because who knows if that'll actually happen, right? We might see a little softening this winter and then it could come right back up in the spring and summer. So I'm advising my clients, hey, if you're ready, if you're financially prepared and you are stable, you're going to be where you are for 5 years or longer. Buy now. You will benefit from the accumulated appreciation and amortization benefits of a mortgage over that period of time. It'll be well worth the effort to do it now rather than waiting. So that is an important thing. And I've got a cost of waiting. What is the cost of waiting? I've got a whole analysis I put together for clients to help those that are struggling with this, wanting to wait for rates to come down, to give themselves permission to buy. I want to give people permission to buy a home right now, especially during the holidays and the winter months. It's just a great time to buy. It really is. Less competition, more possibilities for sellers to contribute towards closing costs, towards rate buy downs, towards fixing up the house, etc. There's just so much more that you can accomplish as a buyer during this period of time. So let me know if you have buyers who are sitting on the fence and need to see some numbers, need to give themselves permission to move forward. I've got a great cost of waiting analysis I'm happy to customize for you for them. Okay, here's some more stats for you, just full of stats today. In the next 2 years, there will be 7 million newborn babies, okay, in the United States, 3 million marriages, and 1.5 million divorces. These 3 life events cause more demand, cause people to need to move. So this demand will continue to build, and at some point will break, right? The dam will break. People will be buying because they need to. It's time for them to move on with their lives with these big events. Okay, now for some great news. Let's switch gears here and talk a little bit more about mortgages and mortgage-backed securities, the mortgage bond market, and what's happening there. So as you can see behind me on the chart here, we have some decent news. Today's been pretty flat. 3 basis point drop in universal mortgage-backed securities is really nothing. So it's pretty much flat. 10-year treasury, basically flat, 2 basis points. But as you can see, the 10-year is now down to 4.42 or below 4.5. For a while there, we were pushing 5% just in the past month, and 4.75 in that range. We're now down to 4.4, which is fantastic news. And on the mortgage-backed security front, as you can see here, the chart, it goes up. So if the chart is heading this direction, going up, that means we have prices that are improving. Higher prices mean lower rates, lower yields. So that's good news. We're back above this level here, this 100-day moving average. So the last 2 weeks, we've rocketed above the 25-day moving average, above the 50-day moving average, and now we're above the 100-day moving average. So if we can hold here and continue with the news that continues to trickle out that would allow us to hold there, like weak employment reports, right, that could come out at the beginning of December, and like inflation reports that are positive. And that's what I want to talk about here real quick. The core, there's two reports that come out. Well, there's three, but the two that come out back to back came out last week. So the consumer price index and the producer price index. One is the retail model that measures the large urban areas, and the producer price index measures manufacturing, measures the wholesale side of things. So the wholesale side of things came down from 2.7 to 2.4% on the core piece that strips out food and energy. That's the one that the Federal Reserve likes to watch, the core PPI. That dropped from 2.7% to 2.4% year over year. Everybody's expecting it to kind of hang in there around 2.7, and it dropped. That was great news. The day before that, there was good news too. The headline CPI, the consumer price index, so the headline that came out, dropped from 3.7 down to 3.2, dropped further than expected. And the core piece that the Fed watches dropped from 4.1% down to 4%. Okay, so there's still a little room that needs to happen. There's still more movement that needs to happen to get down to 2% range, the 2 to 2.5% range that the Fed is saying they want to see on the CPI core. We're not there yet, but it's heading the right direction. We continue to see improvements in inflation, meaning that goods and services are not rising in price as quickly as they were. They're still rising in price by 2 to 4% per year, but they're not rising at astronomical levels, which is good news. So all of these things helped push the mortgage-backed securities, as you can see here, pushed it up, right? Pushed that price up. Last week, we had a huge run up right here when the CPI came out, and then that was followed through and kind of remained steady through the rest of the week. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens as we head 2 weeks from now into the first part of December, and we get the employment report. And if that comes in weaker than expected again, like the last one did, which is what you saw here, right? This big run up in price, we could continue to see mortgage rates improve and mortgage bonds improve. So good news. Happy Thanksgiving to you. I appreciate all of you who work with me consistently, who trust me with your clients, and work with me throughout the year to help your clients and your families get into homes. I love getting families into homes. It's an important piece of life. It gives stability and hope and direction to people and their lives, and gives them just a home base to work from. So as you know, home ownership is one of those key things that helps make families and individuals stronger and happier. And so let's continue this good work that we're doing to help people get into their home. And I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for your referrals, for your trust. And if there's anything else that I can do for you, please let me know. Have a happy Thanksgiving.